please hit the subscribe button.
Okay, Chris Speaks back here today with Brandon Mosley for our BCS State of Alabama podcast, and we got Dr. Bill Chitwood with us here today. So Dr. Bill, in the primary, we've seen a resurgence of Democratic voters. I mean, like 100,000 less than the Republicans, and this is probably the strongest ticket they've had since Ron Sparks headed the ticket 16 years ago. Do they have a chance, or is this just all fluff right now?
Oh, I don't think it's fluff. I think they absolutely have a chance. Not just because the Democrats are hungry, they're highly motivated. They really, really are tired of wandering in the wilderness. But the Republicans, a large part of them, especially the grassroots, I think are dispirited. They're discouraged. They're not happy with what they've seen come out of Algop and Goat Hill, especially in this last session. And when Republicans get dispirited and angry and disappointed with their party, they don't peacefully protest with the obligatory rioting and looting and burning. They stay home. We saw this happen with Roy Moore versus Doug Jones before. That's how we got Senator Doug Jones. And I think that we have the possibility for that same kind of thing to happen this cycle.
But Dr. Bill, we saw in the primary runoff where even though there were two very strong candidates for U.S. Senate on the Democrat side, that only like 90,000 people bothered to show up on the Democrat side. Could we argue that the big turnout in the primary was the anomaly, and then that nobody showed up for the runoff, probably more what we can expect of Alabama Democrats?
I think that argument certainly can be made. I'm not sure if the low turnout in the runoff for the Democrats was a reflection just of general election fatigue, or their two Senate candidates just didn't inspire a large number of Democrats to come out. In the primary, they had lots of races, lots of people, lots of energy, lots of attention. The runoff, not so much.
But you had a gay black candidate. I mean, this was on, he didn't say he was a socialist, but talking to him, he sounded just like a socialist. Wouldn't that motivate the base to come out for that kind of candidate?
Not really. It obviously didn't.
True.
And I don't think West was all that excitement generating either. Let me use that phrase.
Dr. Bill, we've got these August 11th primaries coming up. I think there aren't any Democrats on there. It's just Republicans. How low turnout do you think that's going to be on August 11th, days after the kids went back to school?
I'd be surprised if we break 12%. I think 10%, pretty much along the line of the runoff, is probably something to aspire to. It's a ceiling, not a floor.
I mean, what do you think we've seen such a poor turnout in the primary and runoff. What is going to be motivating anybody to go to the polls on August 11th? I mean,
unless they have a personal motivation and a personal investment in one of the candidates in the 4 districts that are affected, I really can't see them hiking to the polls. That's why I think in these contested districts, especially in 1 and 2, it's going to be very important for the candidates to get out, kiss them hands, shake them babies, see people personally, and ask them personally to come to the polls. Otherwise, I don't see them doing anything but staying home. As you say, school will just have started back. There'll be all the chaos around that. People will have other things on their mind.
high school football.
Well, there is that. You know, that's kind of a thing in the state. I don't know if you've noticed it or not.
Dr. Chitwood, we saw the Wiregrass elect they got Katie Britt in there. They got Barry Moore in there. They're, it's like they're backing Rhett Marquez, down in Enterprise for the congressional seat. Is there any of these other five Republicans who can really stop Rhett, given that he's got the Katie Britt endorsement and I think he's got the Donald Trump endorsement, or is this just Rhett Marquez's to lose?
I think it's Rhett Marquez's to lose at this point. He does have the Trump endorsement. He's got the Katie Britt endorsement. The Wiregrass here lately has felt kind of neglected. Yes, they did have Katie Britt as a senator, but I hear a lot of people from the Wiregrass, and have heard for decades, that they don't think they've gotten the respect they deserve. They're a major agricultural area in the state, produce a lot of agricultural and other income for the state, but they have the feeling that the state is run from the Tennessee Valley, from the Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, Gadsden axis, and from Mobile and Baldwin County. And they're a little tired of being the redheaded stepchildren at the family reunion. So I don't see the other candidates right now, with maybe one or two possible exceptions, being able to challenge Rhett Marquez, given that he's got the Trump and the Katie Britt endorsement. I think they're going to try, and good on them for trying, because nobody should just have it handed to them.
But Dr. Wood, that's only like the Wiregrass, like 6% of the vote. Why should they get this kind of power in the state?
Oh, well, I'm not going to speak as to whether they should or not, but their perception has been for decades now that they got the short end of the stick.
In their defense, it does seem like most of the big job announcements, when we spent all this mega money on luring employers from all over the world here, obviously the Tennessee Valley was a big time beneficiary of that. And, obviously Tuscaloosa County and Lee County. And then, of course, there's been some jobs brought into Jefferson and Shelby and that Birmingham area. I'm having a hard time coming up with 10 big announcements that, in Troy, Dothan, in that area. I mean, they had Kimber in Troy, and I think a distillery, but not a whole lot of action, it seems like, from state leadership.
Aside from the Kimber and the Clyde May distillery, Clyde May being the official bourbon of the state of Alabama, I can't think of another one right off the top of my head. I think you're right, Brandon. I think you would have to work really, really hard to dig out 10. I'm not even sure you could.
We've seen in the primary in the 6th congressional district, Gary Palmer won going away. In an election like this right here, with a low turnout, does Case Dixon have a chance when it's just about getting your people to the polls?
Short answer is yes, he does. Will he be able to motivate enough people who are dissatisfied with Gary Palmer to come out? I don't know. Gary has some very strong support. He has some very good friends. He has made a lot of friends and done a reasonably good job as congressman. Case's problem is that he's young and he started from basically nothing. Now, speaking in Case's favor, he has worked very, very hard to hit every Republican meeting. Every time 2 or 3 Republicans have gathered, Case has brought a covered dish. He's given his little speech everywhere he could. I think he's got a lot of interest. And even if he isn't successful in this cycle, I hope that he's not going to fade away. I think that in another cycle or two, that maybe when Gary Palmer decides to step back from the DC swamp, that Case will be a strong contender to take over that take over that seat.
Dr. Chitwood, the in a general election or a primary deal, I guess the way normally to win is to just blast the airwaves with the best commercials you can come up with. Given that the Republican primary, in these districts could be less than 7% turnout of the total voter deal, shouldn't campaigns, and I don't think any of us are smart enough to tell the campaign consultants in Alabama what to do, but shouldn't the deal be to identify who your voters are and then move heaven and earth to make sure you get your voters to the polls? That's
No, I
kind of what
think.
Doug Jones did in 2017 that Roy Moore did not do.
Oh,
Well,
I think
maybe a
that's
lot was wrong there, but
yeah, that's absolutely right. I think the Democrats are going to do everything they can in the general to do that. Um, in the August 11th special elections, I think one of the problems that people are going to have is election fatigue. And I've been talking to several people about this over the last several weeks. It seems like we've been on one constant election hamster wheel since the Roy Moore Doug Jones special Senate race back in 2017, 2018. It's just one after another, and particularly coming out of this vicious, absolutely vicious primary that we just had, people are burned out of politics. And if you cannot identify your people and motivate them some way, somehow to come out and vote for you, then you're not going to do well on August the 11th or on November the 3rd.
Real, I'm a fan of Cases, and one thing that I like about him is his independence to go against what he doesn't think is right by the party. Do you think that if Case ever did get close, that they would see him as too much of a maverick to send to DC, as close as what the numbers are? That if he wouldn't always caucus with Republicans, they'd try to stop him.
I think that's entirely possible. I mean, look what just happened to Thomas Massie. 1 or 2% of the time he voted with the president, but he also wanted to release the Epstein files. He's an opponent of any kind of foreign aid. He's a debt hawk, and he was just savagely de-elected. So I wonder if, even if Case Dixon gets elected this cycle, will he be able to do anything up in Congress? Because who would he have backing him? Maybe a handful of fiscal conservative Republicans? Maybe.
Dr. Bill, Jerry Carl won the Republican primary that didn't count in May 19 with like 45% of the vote. Now that we've redistricted and changed the districts, he gets half of his home Mobile County back, and he loses his number one opponent, which is Rhett Marquez, which got him in Coffee County, which never was friendly to Jerry, booted out of the district. Do the four people challenging Jerry down there have a chance at all, or is this just a Jerry Carl welcome back reunion tour?
Right now, it's giving all the appearances of the Welcome Back Jerry Carl reunion tour. And my big complaint with that is I haven't had a T-shirt sent to me yet. So if the Jerry Carl campaign is listening, I wear a 6X, okay? I haven't seen a lot of activity from the other four that makes me think that they're a serious challenger. Of course, I know that Jerry is working very hard. His campaign is, doing all the right things. But unless they screw up monumentally, which I think is a low probability, I think Jerry Carl is going to win this August 11th special election. And with there not being any time for a runoff, then you can win with 40% of the vote.
In a five-way, theoretically, you could win with 35% of the vote.
We'll have to see.
I mean, I guess in a five-way, you could theoretically win with 20.1%. Dr. Bill, we had Chris Horn on yesterday, and he said he was the only candidate that could win in the fall against Shamari Figures. What is your thoughts on that?
Well, he doesn't live in the district to start with, unless he's moved in the last several months, and I haven't heard about it. Last I heard, he was living and working and doing his radio show from Huntsville, and that's a fur piece from the Wiregrass. So if he is saying that just based on the fact that he's a black man and Shamari Figures is a black man, I'm not sure that that's going to wash, especially in this new district. So I would not put money on Chris Horn's candidacy.
Dr. Bill, we just saw some of the wildest, most negative. I mean, between you and me, if you sent Jared Hudson, no, I mean, and Barry Moore to the Senate, there probably aren't going to be 5 votes that'll be different. And I don't know what the difference would be between John Wall and Wes Allen as lieutenant governor, as lieutenant governor doesn't actually get a vote. But they attacked Wes's campaign attacked John Wall for having a pet raccoon, for his snake. They claimed he lived in Tennessee, you know. Was the negative advertising overdone in the runoff?
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt that the negative advertising was just more than most Alabamians could stomach. You know, everybody says, oh, negative ads don't work, negative ads don't work, negative ads don't work. If they didn't work, no one would ever do them. Now, there's a time and place to go negative, especially if you have facts to back it up. But the savagery that we saw in the AG's race, in the light governor race, in the Senate race, a lot of which was from out-of-state groups or using out-of-state money or both, that was just over the top, and it turned a lot of Alabamians off. I think that's one of the reasons that turnout was low, especially in the runoff. People got disgusted at all the candidates and said, to heck with this, we're going to stay home.
Dr. Bill, along the same lines, we've seen the Allen campaign, like Brandon alluded to, throw everything they had against John Wall. Do you agree with my assessment that that just made him more sympathetic and likable to the Republican base that turned out?
For some people, I'm certain that was a factor. John Wall has a lot of friends in the Republican Party, but he also has a few people who absolutely hate his guts. And Wes Allen's probably the same way. In fact, most of our politicians, there are going to be some people out there who absolutely hate their guts. Just like with reporters, there are people who hate all of our guts.
Except for Brandon. I think everybody likes Brandon.
Well, yeah. Brandon's the exception to that rule. I don't know how much the sympathy factor helped John Wall. It certainly didn't hurt him terribly. I don't think all the negative stuff was able to chip away at the Trump endorsement. And the track record of, schmoozing with people that John Wall built up when he was Algop chair. That's where he made a lot of friends and a lot of connections all over the state. And I think that paid off ultimately for him in the long
run. Dr. Chitwood, there was a lot of negativity surrounding the Public Service Commission and that crappy bill that the legislature passed, basically stripping power from the commission and stacking it with KIV appointees, probably increased that. How difficult, both of the PSC incumbents that were up this time lost. One of them lost horribly. Did the legislature doom the 2 candidates, or were they going down anyway?
I think it was likely that they were going to go down anyway, but all the uproar with the first set of 3 PSC bills that, first of all, they didn't drop until after qualifying, and that protected the people who were chosen to be the hatchet wielders. to try to drive them through. And then the public absolutely went berserk. I can't think of a set of bills that drew such hatred from all across the political spectrum. I mean, you had Energy Alabama, which is anything but a hardcore conservative group, arguing the same thing as the Alabama Republican Assembly was arguing, that they were bad bills. And then we have Mac Butler's HB 475, which started out as a really good bill, and people were very enthusiastic about it. And then it got to the Senate, and as I've written before, it was gutted, and the Power to the People bill, so quote unquote, was stuffed inside of it. And it was so bad when it came back to the House, the same day that passed the Senate, that Mac Butler, the bill's original sponsor, didn't vote for it. So people were mad about that. There was a lot of emphasis on the high power bills and a lot of negativity directed against Alabama Power. And that did not help the two incumbents at all.
Dr. Bill, on those same lines, I mean, we've seen, I think in the primary, Beaker got 25% of the vote, and Bowden got 23%. I mean, and then we seen in the runoff all the money that was spent against Ziegler. Is this just how strong the Alabama Power vote, anti-Alabama Power movement is out there now? And is it going to continue to grow?
It's certainly a measure of how strong it was on runoff day. The question is, will it continue? And I'm not sure that it will at this intensity. It's hard to sustain that level of emotional intensity over the long term. Are people still going to be upset about power bills? Yes, because once a month they get a reminder about why they should be upset. And I don't see that changing anytime soon, even with the new slate of appointees that's going to come in and the new energy czar that's going to be appointed. I think it's going to continue to be directed at the PSC. And what I see is that a lot of the same people are now folding in opposition to data centers, because all across the country, data centers are making people's power rates go up. In a lot of communities, especially in our neighboring state of Georgia, it's causing the water pressure to drop. It's causing a lot of local pollution from the diesel or the natural gas backup generators. Communities don't like the noise. And have you noticed that all of a sudden climate change is just out of the news? Because these data centers produce lots and lots and lots of heat. Over 24 A-bombs a day of heat generated from the one that's projected to be built in Utah?
Oh,
That's
really?
a lot of heat.
Wow.
Yeah, and we were hearing, we don't know, Americans need to cut back on our air conditioning, set your thermostat at 80 in the summertime. Don't, cut lights off, do all this to save power because we need to save the planet. And, our grid is getting old. And then all of a sudden, they're building data centers that use more power than 20,000 homes do. It's like that none of the people that matter did anything but welcome these data centers to roll in. And I don't see what the general public is getting out of this other than we can use AI to ask them questions and whatnot. Am I missing something here?
No, I don't think you're missing anything at all. A lot of people have started asking the question, we're being told we have to have data centers. We have to have data centers. We have to have AI. We have to. And it doesn't matter what kind of regulations or rules about the environment or the green energy thing or water that we have to trample on. We have to have the data centers. Nobody is making a convincing case for what the general public gets out of it. We're being told the power bills are going to go up. There are going to be brownouts and power shortages. our water pressure is going to continue to be bad, or the water is going to come out looking funny and smelling funny, and the AI is going to take our jobs. And okay, we'll be able to ask ChatGPT questions, but where's the benefit? I haven't seen a whole lot direct for the vast majority of people. And it's being brought up at city councils. It's being brought up by influencers. I don't think there are good answers that are being put out there yet.
Dr. Bill, people are complaining about these data centers, but are they just not going to have to get used to it? I mean, this is where we are now. I mean, there's no putting the genie back in the bottle.
There's no putting the genie back in the bottle, and a lot of communities are finding out it doesn't matter what the citizenry thinks. These data centers are going to go in. One thing that's irritating is that in a lot of these local communities, the city council are required to sign NDAs, so they can't even talk about the deal that was cut. And that's raising a bunch of people's ire. People are not being allowed to speak their minds at city council meetings. One guy went over his allotted time by 30 seconds and was arrested. I think that was in one of the Rust Belt states. Yep, he was arrested, dragged out. It's getting to the point of, remember when the mothers that were yelling at the school boards about COVID were listed as domestic terrorists?
Yeah.
There are those same kind of apparatuses being put in place by this administration to label people who protest against the data centers as domestic terrorists. It's the same kind of construction, the same ideas. That worries me because, everybody knows that the tech bros are in tight with this administration, and little local communities are just getting steamrolled.
Dr. Bill, we saw Alpha get behind Corey Hill, who was the mayor of Douglas for a commissioner of agriculture and industries, instead of Jack Williams, who I think had been running for that position for like 3 years and was a very popular and well-known state senator. And Christina Werner McInnes, who's families are some of the wealthiest people in the state and very well known. Did Alpha, really demonstrate their ability to get their people out and basically, for the most part, get whomever they wanted elected?
It's hard to look at the outcomes and argue against that, because getting Corey Hill elected was indeed a flex for Alpha. And I'm not party to all the inner deliberations that went on to select Corey Hill as their guy. I'm not exactly sure why they picked him over Jack or Christina, but they did, and they did get him elected. And people paid attention to that.
I've had so many text messages, emails, direct messages, people saying, thank you so much for what you did to stop Wes Allen. And I'm like, I didn't do anything. He had a great candidate, John Wall, and the president's endorsement. But people are actually scared of this man. I mean, do you have it? You know why?
Not really. I mean, Wes, he hasn't been a wretched Secretary of State. I wouldn't say that he's been the greatest one in the history of our state, because we've had some really good ones in the past, but he hasn't been horrible. I think it shocked a lot of people when he announced, and he was immediately the front runner, and then A.J. McCarron announced, and Allen in the polling fell to a distant second place.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's curious that the Stallions coaching job came up right shortly thereafter, pulling A.J. McCarron out of the race. I'm not sure what to make about that, but that has the odor of some powerful strings being pulled. I don't really know why people were so trepidatious about Wes Allen. I do remember the look that he gave Dean Odle in the first forum before qualifying, when Dean challenged him a little bit, and if looks
I
could
use that picture all the
kill,
time.
yeah, if looks could kill, Dean Odell would be a pile of smoking charcoal on the ground. It would be like a Looney Tunes cartoon.
Hold on, I'll tell you, if you think that look was bad, you should have seen the look he gave me in Rodney Walker's suite at Talladega. He was sitting there smiling and gleaming, and I looked at him, and we finally noticed who I was, but his face just contorted. I mean, it doesn't hold a candle to that one he gave Dean.
Well, I have to take your word for it. Did you get a picture at least?
No, I did not get a picture of. Rodney said that he said, "Yeah, I could feel the tension. I was trying to get in between y'all." I was like, "For what?" I was like, "I wish he would have hit me. I mean, I would have fell down, and I mean, that would have been all in the news."
Well, it would have been great moments that you wish you had your camera rolling and didn't. Mine, the cycle was at the Doug Jones kickoff when the DJ started playing YMCA. And the look of shock and the look of horror and rage that swept over the crowd. Of course, I was sitting in the corner trying not to laugh out loud because they would have peacefully protested me into a pile of chunky salsa. That's a great moment that I wish I could go back and reconnect with. But alas, I did not. Speaking of Rodney Walker, have we seen the last of him in Alabama politics?
No, I don't think so at all.
I think I think Walker is convinced that if he has the right race, he can make noise the next time around.
I hear that he's possibly looking at Rogers' seat if Rogers retires. And then I've been told that Senator Britt is working the crowd to try to secure the vice presidential nomination, and then she may give that seat up. I mean, that seems like I don't see how she would be giving that up to open it up for him
No,
to run for
she
Senate.
wouldn't. She would be
Yeah.
the vice presidential candidate. And then we would all pray that if we're all the Republicans anyway, that I'm assuming J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio is the president and Katie's the second, Katie would run for reelection and be running for vice president, sort of like Ryan did, when he was the vice president. And if you don't get it, well, Katie's still the senator. If you do get it, then the governor at the time, probably Tommy Tuberville, would appoint the next senator, and then there'd be a special election. Remember the Roy Moore deal, later that year to decide. Yeah, I think in that sort of deal, Rodney Walker, Wes Allen, John Merrill, a bunch of people could make noise if you got that perfect turn of Republican events. But I think the Democrats want that presidency back.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt about that. You have Gavin, Mr. Perfect Hair Newsom, who is already doing everything but holding up Newsom in 2028 signs. Kamala Harris, oddly enough, is making noise like she wants to be the nominee again. Some people are talking up AOC as a potential nominee. I think that regardless of who else decides to throw their hand in the ring, the Democrat presidential circus, which is going to begin on November the 4th, is going to be one that we're going to need a lot of popcorn for. Lots of popcorn.
I mean,
before you go, Dr. Bill, I think we need to discuss, the elephant in the room, and that's all the litigation surrounding Tommy Tuberville. Do you think that this guy that's suing Tuberville has any chance at all of getting Tuberville kicked off the ballot? Or is this just the Democrats' effort to have negative stories out there about Tuberville and Santa Rosa, Florida, and all this all the way to the general?
I can't answer that with 100% certainty because the Democrats don't call me up and discuss strategy with me on a regular basis. The two veterans who are suing him, I don't know what the judge is going to do. Monday at the hearing, the judge just flat out said there is no case law precedent for this. So I don't know what she's going to say when she looks at the evidence and how she and courts above her are going to interpret 7 years next. Because those three magic words are going to determine what happens with Tommy Tuberville.
But do you think any Republican judge or court that's going to be accountable to the voters is going to take off the most popular politician in the state's history off the ballot?
Not without a very, very, very good reason, no. I mean, that's just the way politics works. I think if you took Tuberville off the ballot, you better get ready to go to the House next time you're up for election.
And I mean,
just don't even try.
It appears that, nobody cares if he has a second home in Florida. I mean, that's nobody cares about that.
No, they don't, because most of us would love to have a second home in Florida.
Yeah, I mean, and there's no rule. I mean, like I said, that I can prove that Tommy Tuberville lives in Florida. I can also prove that he lives in Alabama. You cannot not prove that he lives in either one. You can't prove a negative.
Exactly.
But if he lives in both, he can run for governor of Alabama.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, I sort of see it as a moot point. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, if he wanted Florida residency, he could get it. He has the house. But he has a house in Alabama. He has an Alabama driver's license. He has an Alabama voter's registration. He pays Alabama taxes. He's spent a decade here working here. He would still be the coach at Auburn, except Auburn decided to go a different route there. It wasn't his fault.
Well, I think if he hadn't brought in that stupid spread offense that
spread offense year, but no, they got killed on recruiting, so they were, they decided to gamble on a spread, and that sort of went south on them. But it was a desperate attempt to get one more year.
Yeah, and I like Ken, but I'm like, Ken, why are you making all these enemies? And then he comes out there and he asks for $6 million. Like, why do you deserve $6 million in this lawsuit?
Exactly. He was getting a lot of sympathy and getting a lot of attention. And then he asked for the $6 million, and that smells like extortion. And I talked to him about it. And he said, oh, no, it's not, because I'm going to blah, 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 blah. I'm like, Ken, when you say, give me $6 million and I will go away, to the average person, that's extortion. Okay? Doesn't matter what you're going to do with it. You can spend it on lollipops for all I care, but when you demand a large chunk of change to go away, no. I think he did himself in with
TV that. Land that wants to spend $6 million to see Brandon's podcast go away. Come talk to me.
Well, I mean, 10,000. We can.
Oh, and if they want to see me and my site go away, I'd go away for $6 million.
$6 million, yeah, that'll work.
Well, I'm wondering if this is these lawyers that filed this, that talking about Democrat, if they're from McFeeters, because he called me a while back and said, stay tuned, watch and see. And I was like, okay. And according to him, he's going to be able to get this in federal courts. But Bill Baxley and Troy King both told me there's no way you can get this into federal courts.
Well, he sent me a press release saying that he was announcing like a GoFundMe or something to raise the money to hire the attorneys to bring the lawsuit. And I didn't even use that because it's like, okay, if you don't have the money and you don't have the attorneys, no.
I mean, wouldn't there be a lawyer be willing to take that pro bono just to have their name out there?
Apparently not.
Or is that?
Yeah,
I got the same press release.
Whether you're a Republican or Democrat, you're going to have to practice in the state for the next 8 years.
Yeah.
Do you really want to be sideways with the next governor for 8 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Thank you. No, not happening. So I got that same press release, and I checked his GoFundMe, and he raised like $600 and change. And I haven't checked it since. Like Brandon, I didn't run it. Why bother?
Yeah, I didn't even check if he sent it to me. I mean, um, I just don't understand. And I just don't understand why Ken's wanting to go down this road. All right, so speaking of residency challenges, we've seen the Alabama GOP just reject another one of about John Walls. Do you think somebody's going to sue over that too?
Do not know. Cannot say.
Yeah, based on the if the little guys that are suing Tuberville have standing, far as I can tell, any cat that's in the state has standing to bring that lawsuit against John Wall or whomever they want to challenge. Just send it to the courts. I mean, this is why you have political parties, so they can decide who their nominees are, whether it be the party bosses or a caucus or a convention or primaries. But when you get into courts, I mean, that just gets crazy. I mean, maybe I'm too democratic here, but it's like let the party pick the nominees. Am I missing something?
No, I
No,
don't
I
think
mean, I
you're
think.
missing anything.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Chris.
And no, and I kind of, people complain about this low turnout, but to me, it doesn't really bother me because it seems like you have more informed voters that are going and picking the candidates instead of just people who don't know what they're doing and going out there and voting just because they know a name.
I think that's part of it. Here's another wrinkle that people seem to miss yesterday. One of the decisions that SCOTUS dropped was they removed the financial limitations on how much a party could directly support a nominee. So they can allow donors to give money to either the Democrat or the Republican National Party, and it specifically go to the candidate. So this follows on Citizens United and then McCutcheon. And I think that what we're going to see, possibly at the state level, but certainly at the national level, this is another huge money spigot that's going to be turned open. And much more money is going to flow through the national parties into these nominees. So look for more money, more money, more money to be spent in these elections. And I'm not sure that's a good thing.
Dr. Bill,
Yeah, I
we've
mean,
had you here for like 45 minutes or more. We could keep asking questions all day. Is there something else you'd like to add or before we go?
I think we pretty much hit the high spots. The one thing that everybody freaked out yesterday about was birthright citizenship.
yeah.
I am not a fan of what the court decided. And
Isn't that way it's been for generations that, hey, if you're here and your plane goes down and you have to, stop over for whatever reason and you have the baby's an American citizen. And that's sort of the way everyone has interpreted it, even though that note was not at all the original intent of the Congress when that was passed and ratified, at the end of the Civil War. But I mean, that doesn't really change anything. That just ends the effort by Donald Trump to get rid of birthright citizenship. And it does resolve the status of all these people that are, is the 6-year-old that was born here, whose parents are illegal, or is a citizen? Well, now we have the answer. They are. And that's what we already thought.
I mean, my thing is, of course, I'm not a constitutional lawyer, just playing on Facebook. Is when they passed that, they could never foresee the Chinese sending pregnant women over here to have a baby to come back 18 years later and to be citizens and influence our government.
oh, there's one Chinese guy. He hasn't even come. He's just sent sperm samples. Over 100 kids born by surrogates in America.
Really?
He just
God.
sends a little. He sends a specimen cup on ice. So, yeah, birth tourism is a big thing, and well, with the spigot of illegal immigrants turned wide open during the Biden years, fortunately, that has been slowed down a lot. But The Federalist wrote a series of articles yesterday just ripping this decision, and I just about lost my mind yesterday trying to read them. Finally, I just put up an article that here are the links. Here's a 1 or 2 sentence about what they're saying. Go read it yourself. Make up your own mind. But I'm not a fan of that decision at all for a bunch of reasons.
Yeah, I was surprised. I really was. In 6-3.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't particularly close.
Yeah, I mean,
I expected it to be a 5-4 decision. The 6-3 did shock me.
Because it's hard to imagine the court becoming more conservative than it is now. I mean, substantially more conservative than it is.
yeah. And probably I guess Justice Thomas is maybe the most conservative.
Yeah, and he's also like one of the oldest people that's on there.
Yeah, and it's funny here. Like I hear black people talk about him, they just hate that man. I mean, Donald Watkins called him the DEI affirmative action hire, and I was like, okay,
Yeah,
so
I wouldn't make Donald Watkins the spokesman for all black people.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, so that you just apply that term wherever it fits. I mean, you just don't like him because he's a conservative.
Well, they can apply that term to Clarence Thomas, but you dare not apply it to Kenji Brown Jackson.
Yeah, yeah.
Despite the fact that Biden came out flat out and said, I'm going to hire a black woman. If that's not DEI by declaration, I don't know what is.
I mean,
not we're going to get the best person for the bench. No, we're going to get a black woman.
And that's
they didn't even go out and get the best Democrat for the bench. They just got the most liberal rubber stamp, and she had to be black.
He said that when he picked Kamala Harris to be his vice president. I'm picking a black woman. And, that may have actually, I don't think vice presidential candidates matter, but when you look at the razor thin margin of some of those states, that may have actually helped him pulling out more black voters.
I don't know. I still think with all the mail-in ballots, he was going to win. He could have made me the VP, and Biden still would have won in about 2020 the way that election was run.
Yeah, let's not get into the 2020 election. That'll take another 6 hours to sort out.
Okay. All right, well, Dr. Bill, thanks for coming on and talking to us today, and I'll get this up shortly.
You're quite welcome.
Thanks so much for having me on, Dr. Bill.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.